Welcome back. It is the Dr. Cloud Show, and I'm glad that you have joined me once again to talk about life and all the stuff that we talk about here, which is, if you are new to the program, I like to talk about life looking like a pie, and there's three big slices in it. There's your clinical life. Do you know you have a clinical life? What's a clinical life? Well, when we go to a clinic, well, we don't feel good. So, like depression, anxiety, and stress, and burnout, and addictions, or dealing with people who might have those that you're close to, very, very painful. Second piece of the pie. Oh, by the way, in that first piece are our happy feelings. We don't have to be hurting all the time. We want to get from kind of, what surviving to thriving in that clinical piece. How about well-being and health and good moods and joy and happiness and all that we talk about? So that's one. Number two, the second piece is your relationships and the people that are on the other end of you, which might mean marriage or dating or family, extended family, adult siblings, grandma, grandpa, work relationships, bosses, employees, peers, and I'll throw dogs in there. It can be one of your most significant relationships if you're smart. So the relational world. And then third piece is our world of performance. We all have talents and abilities, different ones, different levels, all of that, but we're still, each one of us got a few things that we're better at than other things. And one thing that makes people happy and thrive is to be able to use our talents and have dreams and turn those dreams into goals instead of fantasies. A dream without a plan is just a fantasy. But when we take our dreams and we have goals, use our talents and abilities and known ways of getting there, then we do achieve goals. And we are fruitful, and a fruitful life is part of a happy life. So that's what we talk about here. And the way we do it is by you calling me, and we get to hang out. Now, there's a bunch of other people kind of on the line with us, and that's how we learn together. So here's the number: 844-940-2774, 844-940-2774, 844-940-2774. Put that in your speed dial, so when you're out there kind of like riding around in the car, and we pop up on Instagram or Facebook or YouTube, and you've just been in a conflict with somebody, you can call me right then. Just speed dial it. We'll hang out. And we're hanging out today in a as if you're a regular listener, this is my heavy travel season. It seems like when COVID started to open up more and more around the country, everybody had their events all at once. And it's like I have been on the road, it seems like a lot and forever. And here I am again in beautiful, beautiful, beautiful Sea Island, Georgia. What a pretty place. So that's it. And next week, I don't know where I'll be, but I'll be with you. We'll hang out. Okay, so announcements. Oh my gosh, is time marching forward? You've heard life is short. Well, so are the amount of days before our big 2-hour webinar coming up, When Family Hurts, Breaking Destructive Patterns. When family hurts, breaking destructive patterns. You might be in a dysfunctional family. If you have a belly button, you are in a dysfunctional family. You know what that means? Think about this. If you have a belly button, what does that mean? That means that your name is not Adam or Eve in terms of the first two humans, where God went poof, and there's two people. Well, they didn't come the natural way into this life like you and I did, which is what? From a generation before you, down with the umbilical cord, meaning you inherited your life from a generation above you. And I don't know if you notice this. You might not have noticed this. Excuse me. Maybe the generation before you had a few issues. Maybe, just maybe. If they're human, they did. That's what we know. Imperfect people have imperfect kids, and then they have imperfect kids. And generational patterns tend to go through in families until somebody stands up and decides to change those or get better. Well, those are big circles, right? You got your immediate family, and then you grow up, and now you got adult siblings, and you got two sets of parents a lot of times, in-laws and ones you came from and vice versa. And then you got grandparents, and then you got cousins, and then you got all of the, adult kids. Somewhere in all of that can be a little dysfunction, and that can cause pain. So this webinar is going to look at the main dynamics where pain tends to hang out in families. And then we're going to talk about what you can do about those. And especially, some of you have noticed on your calendar that we didn't plan this way. It's just the way it came up in the schedule of events we do. Pretty good time to do this, though, because Thanksgiving is coming up, or Thanksgiving, as they say where I grew up. And then you got Christmas and Hanukkah and the New Year and all of this. And there is a lot of family going on. So this webinar can help equip you in general, but also specifically for the holidays. So join us. Here's how you sign up. You got to register by going to boundaries.me/family. Boundaries.me/family. Okay. Boundaries.me/family. You get registered. If you can't be there on November 15th at 5 p.m. Pacific, doesn't matter. You got to sign up for that one, but then you can stream it afterwards. It'll sit there and you watch it as many times as you want. Boundaries.me/family. All righty. So before we begin to talk to our callers, let me give the number one more time. 844-940-2774 is the number. Before we go to our callers and start to learn a little more about life from them, I would like to talk about something that I don't know if I've talked about this in the beginning of the program before. We kind of talk about it here and there. It's in some of the courses on boundaries.me because it falls into some important clinical and performance categories. It is a term that was coined by a particular school of psychology called CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy, if you've ever heard of that, which is an interesting moment to be talking about that, because one of the people that wrote a lot in that area, Dr. Aaron Beck, passed away this past week, I think. And he did a lot in basically promoting and uplifting the role of our thoughts, and the role of our thoughts in specifically depression. He wrote a book back in the 70s, maybe, called Cognitive Therapy of Depression. And it's kind of where he decided, and obviously this, in my view, has some limitations, but also truth, that a lot of times depression, anxiety, other kinds of issues like that, they really, and I hate to use this word because I think it's insufficient, but we can use it in the way that you might think about it, is that a lot of that is generated by our thoughts. So we have thoughts that end up determining how we feel about something. There's no doubt that that is true. Where I kind of get off the train a little bit is that sometimes how we're feeling about something can generate thoughts too. And so it's, we're complicated people, right? But it is true that thinking does have a great deal to play in our moods and our fears and anxiety states, and even in our relationships and driving behavior. Now, Beck talked about how we tend to have these negative thoughts about ourselves and others and the future. And with that is kind of the outside world. A lot of times, if you even look back to COVID, when it began to get really bad last year, people began to just go into this malaise a lot and begin to feel really, like, what am I doing in my life? And, I'm not going anywhere, and kind of feel bad about themselves. And then they kind of felt like other people didn't like him and were unsafe, and the world was unsafe. And there was a lot to validate that actually last year, as we saw and experienced, but that life wasn't safe and the future's not going to be any better. And it all goes negative. And once we get in that spiral of negative thinking, then obviously our moods change. So that's kind of where a lot of this came from. And also, if you're interested in the history of this kind of stuff, there's a guy named Albert Ellis who, and I think he might have been before Beck, but he did something called rational emotive therapy, RET, which basically said that we have an event, okay, and then we have a feeling about that event. Somebody rejects you, or you miss the sale, or you don't get the date, or you hit it out of bounds on the golf course. And then you have certain feelings about that. He said, well, there's no law that says you have to feel anything about anything. How you're going to feel about that event depends on what you think about it and how you interpret it. And if you look at it in a catastrophizing, awfulizing, this is terrible, it's horrible that I didn't get that date, that means I'm a horrible person and I'm rejectable and non-desirable and nothing will ever work out, well, then you're going to feel pretty crummy. But if you have other thoughts, like, okay, it was just one person, who knows why they didn't like me? Maybe they had a parent that had my same hair color, and they had a lot of conflicts with that parent, so they don't like my hair color. So they, by the way, this stuff is true. This stuff happens, associations in people's heads. But there are other ways that you can interpret bad events other than something very, very depressing. Okay. All right. So why do I start with all of that? Well, because that's where this cognitive stuff, that's where this next term came from that I want you to begin to think about today, because it is very important. I've seen this in my own life. I've seen it in countless people that I've worked with, because it's just part of the way humans are wired. And here's the term: automatic thoughts. Automatic thoughts. Wow. Now think about this. That's a problematic phrase, right? Automatic thoughts, because we tend to think if I'm thinking something, I'm thinking, meaning there's an action verb in there. I am thinking this. I think this. There's an agent in there. Automatic means there's nobody thinking. It just happens. Okay, folks, that is the problem. That's the problem. It just happens. We're just wired that way. Oh my gosh, how much more out of control of our lives can we be than to not be in control of what we think? You just think that. Well, why do you think that? Just think it. It's the way it is. And think about that, yourself and other people and the world around you, the future. What if you have wiring that automatically, boom, throws those thoughts in there, automatically throws those thoughts in there. And then that determines how we feel and how we behave. And it happens every single day. Every single day. You've seen this in people you're close to. You've seen it absolutely happen. You say no to something or whatever, and they automatically, immediately say, well, I guess you don't care about me. Or I guess I'm just not cool enough for you. Or. And there's an automatic, a lot of times, automatic victimization. Well, you're just an abusive person. Why? Because anybody that says no to them is abusive, right? Or. And there's this automatic thinking. Now, generally, it's problematic. Well, that's not even true. I was going to say, generally, it's most problematic when we think about ourselves, because something will happen. You'll immediately think, oh, I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I can't do that. I'll never be able to do that. And there's this automatic thing that starts to happen that's based on wiring, which comes from whoever knows why somebody told you that. There's automatic thinking, though, about the world. One of the things that that I've dealt with so many people and seen them do incredible things is to get over the automatic thinking that they have in the performance world of life, thinking they'll never be able to be successful because they didn't come from a successful background, or they'll never be able to be financially successful because they didn't start with anything. And to make money you have to have money and all that. And or to I'll never be able to build anything because I don't know anything about that. Well, so what? You can learn. But these belief systems, and that's really what lies underneath an automatic thought. Have you ever thought about doing something outlandish, making a request of somebody, an outlandish request? Like, I don't know, you know, call Paul McCartney and ask him to give you a guitar lesson. What's the automatic thought going to be? Well, he would never do that. Of course, that's the automatic thought. But have you tried it? See, you don't know, do you? And there's so many instances, and we hear this all the time, of people doing things that we would automatically assume that wouldn't work, and then people actually try it and it did work. Well, see, our automatic thoughts are like that, and they can depress you, they can make you anxious, these thoughts. And I just want to give you three kind of quick categories here: yourself, other people, and kind of broadly, the world around you, kind of how it works. Okay. Another way to look at this, which some people speak of, you hear a lot of times, is kind of a cousin of this, is when people have confirmation bias. Confirmation bias is when we have a belief about something, then something happens, and we turn that belief into proof that we're right. See, I told you so. See, I tell you that. I mean, all bosses are like that. Of course, you said no. And it's our belief is not true, but something that will happen, and then we'll use that to confirm our beliefs. I I don't do this anymore. It just got too frustrating, depressing. But one of the things I used to do, just when putting on my psychologist mind, is I would take, and I won't name the networks, but take two networks, one of them right leaning, one of them left leaning, and put them up on the screen at the same time, talking about the same issue in the news that day. And each side would take the same issue and use it as proof that the other side was bad. Just confirmation bias. And our belief systems will drive these automatic thoughts. And I'm not really, you know, isn't even my field to talk about that stuff, but it is my field to talk about how the mind works. So I want to get out of that into where it affects you. And that's in those three areas of life: the clinical area, the relational area, and the performance area. So, how much of what you are feeling clinically, whether anxiety or stress or depression, low mood, is coming from thoughts that are just automatically flying around in your head and they're generating those moods? Or how much struggle in a relationship are coming from assumptions that you have of, well, that person's just unreasonable. You just can't talk to them. Or they're just like this, or they're just like that. And then seeing things and interpreting them in terms of that belief system. And it keeps us from being close. They're going to reject me. They think I'm stupid. They think this, they think that. And a lot of insecure attachment can be kind of fueled and driven by this stuff as well. When spouses won't talk to each other because they assume the other spouse is, well, they're not going to listen, or this and the other. Or even finding a spouse, if you're single, the assumptions, I hear this all the time. Well, men are only interested in blah, 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 and women are only interested in blah, blah, blah. And then people stay passive and it affects their behavior and they don't step out there and meet people. And on and on and on. And then about dreams and goals. Well, they'll never hire me because I don't have the experience in A, B, or C. or they'll never think, that I'm good enough for this position because A, B, or C, or that will never work because, blah, blah, blah. Here's what we know, and the research has proven over and over and over again. Those are not thoughts. Those are automatic thoughts. It's like a sprinkler system that goes off. Nobody's watering the grass. It just goes off on a timer. Don't live your life with automatic thoughts. Take control of those thoughts. And that's a big thing that the cognitive people tell people to do. And let me give you a little trick here. What they do is they'll tell you, just start to monitor them. And when you have a thought about doing something or connecting with somebody or relating to somebody or accomplishing something, just listen to what you're automatically thinking about your assumptions about what's going to happen or your assumptions about yourself, and literally go on a path of writing those down. And once you write them down, then you're going to be seeing some patterns, or you're going to be seeing that you have certain beliefs and certain biases about certain situations or yourself or your abilities or this, that, and the other. And those are limiting. They're so limiting. They are so limiting. Plus, they're so destructive and not true. Validate stuff with reality. Don't let it stop you in your head. So then you observe those and you log them, you write them down, then you learn some stuff about how you think about yourself. And once you learn that, then you can go thinking. Newsflash, you can change your mind. I think I changed my mind. I changed my mind about that. What does that mean? I thought differently. One of my favorite verses, 1 Corinthians 13, Paul uses the phrase, when I was a child, I ... but when I became a man, I ... See, we think differently. That is a normal cognitive process that people go through. When you were a child, you used to think that the boogeyman lived under your bed or in the closet or in the dark. And then we grow up and find out, no, I think the boogeyman lives inside of me is where I am the boogeyman. Help me with me. Well, that's a big growth step when we do that. So anyway, that's what I want to talk about today. Just listen to your automatic thoughts. New vistas will open up to you. What if you didn't see your spouse as critical or grumpy, but if you saw them as maybe wounded or hurt? And then you started to hear some of that other stuff as a cry for help from a place of woundedness. That would change your behavior, wouldn't it? I mean, basically, that's what we do when we work with addicts. You don't see them as bad people. You see them as people that are caught up in something. One of my favorite verses, Galatians 6, is when you see a brother or sister who is caught up in something bad. Caught up, the Greek word there is actually means like a fish net. A fish gets caught in a net, they can't get out. Well, people get caught in addictions and other things, and they're powerless. That's why the first step of AA, what does it say? The 12 steps, we learned that we were powerless. Well, what if you saw somebody as unable to do any differently? Then our role became to help rescue them. Why? To avoid responsibility? No, they're still responsible. See, that's the worst thing about being an addict. You're powerless, and then you're also responsible for the damages that you're causing. Anybody need a savior? Yeah, well, that's a good point, right? When we get to the bottom and we get to the end of ourselves, then you change those beliefs about I'm unhelpable, I'm bad. You change those automatic thoughts to I'm in trouble, I'm powerless, I need help, and there is someone who can help me. His name is Jesus. See, that's a different belief. That's changing your mind. And then when you do that, you act differently every time you have a problem. You don't feel bad, you feel hungry. Or when somebody else has a problem, we don't feel judgmental, we feel helpful if they will allow us. Automatic thoughts will change your life if you get in touch with them and change them to intentional thoughts. And I'll close with one little story that makes me smile about Olivia, my oldest daughter. Olivia was probably in about the 4th grade at the time, something like that, 3rd or 4th grade. And she had a teacher that was pretty strict. Every morning, that teacher she was pretty tough. I mean, she might have been overly tough, but I thought it was pretty cool because she, really had high standards of performance, and all the kids were a little bit anxious. And sometimes Olivia had something coming the next day, she would start to get anxious about it, and then she couldn't go to sleep. So one night I hear her calling down the hall, "Daddy!" I went in there. I said, "What's wrong?" She said, I can't sleep. I can't go to sleep. What am I going to do? What should I think about?" She said this phrase, "What should I think about?" I loved it. It just made me smile. "What should I think about?" I said, "Okay, Olivia, here's what I want you to do. Do you know how to count sheep?" And she goes, "No, how do you count sheep?" I said, "Well, in your head, lie there. I want you to picture a fence and picture sheep jumping over the fence. And every time they jump over the fence, then count them and just keep counting them. Don't ever stop. Just keep counting them. And in the morning, I'll ask you what you got to, but don't stop. Keep counting them." She goes, "Okay." So I'll go back to my study or wherever. About 5 minutes later, "Daddy!" And I go back in there. I said, "What's wrong?" She goes, My sheep keep crashing into the fence." I go, "Olivia, make them jump over the fence." She goes, "I can't. They keep crashing into the fence." I go, "Olivia, make them jump over the fence in your head." She goes, "I can't. They're crashing." I go, "Olivia, they're your sheep. They're not my sheep." You can learn to get the sheep to jump over the fence because it's in your head. And the lesson in that is it's not always easy with our automatic thoughts, but they are our sheep. So they are your thoughts. It's like a muscle. It's going to be hard in the beginning, but it'll get stronger. All righty. I might have to play that segment for Olivia now that she's older. See if her sheep are making it over the fence. All right, let's go to the phones. Lynn's calling us. She watches on Facebook. And by the way, you can see the program on Facebook, YouTube, or Instagram, or you can download it as a podcast, wherever podcasts are sold or given away, as this one is. Okay, Lynn, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good. I'm signed up for your workshop. I can't wait. Got lots of dysfunction. That's why I'm calling today.
Oh, good. I love calls about dysfunction because hopefully we can make them better. I do have to ask you that, guys, just because you are the first caller. Normally I'm at home and I have a different setup. And Albie, if you can hear me, when it comes through the speaker here, are we getting any feedback or is it working okay?
Sound good.
Sound good. Okay, great. Lynn, it may be that you're just his superior voice and you overrode all the technological problems, but tell me how.
I'm sure that's it.
Tell me how I can help you.
Okay. Without getting into a ton of detail, you can ask me if you need clarification, but I'm going to just kind of give you a quick overview. My father passed away last October and left my brother all of his guns and left my sister some things, and my other sister has since passed away. But funny, I wasn't given anything. So my mom said, "Oh, your dad, your son can have your dad's watch," kind of like a little throwaway gift, and not knowing that the watch is worth a lot of money. So she mailed it just in a manila envelope. Literally, she thinks this watch is worth, $20. Kind of, like I said, like a throwaway gift. So we get it here, and I put it in the safe until my son got back from college. He's 20. So over the summer, we had it appraised, and it's worth a lot of money. So the little throwaway gift, we are now at a loss on what to do. So I let my son decide.
It shouldn't be in a loss. You don't throw it away. That's the answer, right?
Right. Like, do we sell it, or does he wear it? You know what? A throwaway gift, I'm saying, for her on her end. You know, it was kind of like a little consolation prize.
No, I totally got it. I'm curious though.
Okay.
And then is that the question? What do you do with it?
Well, no, it gets a little bit better. Okay, so since my son is 20, I said, this is worth. Do you want me to tell you how much it's worth? Do you, Dr. Cloud, want me to tell you how much it's worth?
Sure. How much is it worth?
75 grand.
75 grand.
Okay.
So I told you not throw it away, and I told you don't. Whatever you do, don't throw it away. I don't know what the right answer is, but
okay, we got it.
All right, you got it.
Well, okay, so the jeweler said, if you keep this, you need to insure it. You know, obviously, it's like a small house.
Right.
So I gave my son the option. I said, you can sell it. And, you know, this is your watch from Grandpa. You can sell it, you can wear it, you can put it in the safe, and you can insure it. So he said, Mom, I am not wearing it.
He ought to insure it anyway, no matter what he does.
Well, no, he sold it. He sold it because he said, I'll never wear it. And it's just going to sit there. And it's, you know, like Dave Ramsey would say, your money is worth nothing, just sitting under your mattress, right? So he sold it. So,
all right.
My mom is now calling my son and saying, so are you going to wear Grandpa's watch to the formal? Yeah, he's in college now. So you're going to wear that watch to the formal? And how's that watch? And my son does not know there is a riff, and I didn't get anything. And like, I've sheltered him from all the dysfunction. So they would have a relationship, my family and my son.
Yeah.
So I just told my son, please don't say anything yet. Please don't say anything. Let me sort some things out, because my mom would have a fit if she knew that my son was just given 75 grand and we sold it. She didn't tell us what to do with it. She didn't tell my son what to do with it. So this is where I need your wisdom.
By the way, and this doesn't apply to you because it's too late, but I want other people to hear this. The biggest problem with passing things on to the next generation is not passing them on with good intentionality. And so as you pass wealth on or pass possessions on and this, that, and the other, you got to consider the age at which it happens and the maturity level and what the effect of that is going to be on that person's life. And so that, as you are experiencing now, right? What if your mom had thought, so what are the ramifications of this? And, you know, that's why people do trust and all that have certain years and certain things kick in, et cetera, et cetera. But anyway, just for others. So
can I just tell you something on that? Can I just tell you something on that? The ramifications? She literally thinks it's worth like $50. And that's where I'm at this crossroad. Like, do I tell her how much it's worth? And then I'll get written out of the will forever from her. Or do I let him tell her? Or, you know, like, I don't know what to do. Because she literally thinks it's worth like a little you know, watch that you'd buy them all.
Yeah. What's he done?
She didn't know what she gave him.
Please tell me he didn't go buy a new Corvette or something. Does he still have the money?
Oh my gosh, yes. He is not going to spend it. He's not going to spend a dime. I mean, he's a very strong Christian, and he knows he knows how to handle his money. He's done the financial piece. You know, he's very, very smart.
Okay. Good.
And I don't think I'd let him, even though he's 20.
So he'll go.
My question. So what?
He'll go invest it. He won't spend it.
It's invested. It is in an account not to be touched.
Okay.
But, you know, he's 20, so he can do what he wants with his money. So my question is, when she calls him and says, how about Grandpa's watch? Yay, what'd you do? You know, are you wearing it? Let me see. What should he tell her? Because I'm protecting this situation still, and I'm not sure I should be doing that.
Well, we got to put this.
Albie laughed at me too. Why are you laughing? Albie laughed at me too.
Well, because you got to. sometimes the toothpaste is out of the tube, and then you got to figure out,
Exactly.
where the heck am I going to put this? Do I put it in my mouth and use it? Do I put it down the drain? Do I hide it?
Exactly.
Then that's the kind of, look, there's
So
no,
did I stump you? Have I
no,
stumped you with my
no, you didn't
question?
stump me.
Oh, darn it. Darn it.
I'll tell you why you're not stumping me, because there's no right answer here. So you can't be stumped if you can't. You can give some stupid answers, which I'll try to avoid.
Yeah.
But let's talk about, instead of what the right answer is, let's talk about the issues. Okay.
Okay.
What's the highest goal here?
I would say to not cause a further rift in this dysfunctional family.
Okay.
You know, my brother catches wind of it. It's like, why didn't my son get it? My sister catches wind of it and she didn't get the 75. You know, I mean, it's going to cause a ripple effect.
Well, it's not.
But the number one thing is protect
First
that.
of all, that's not true. The rift is already there, if that can happen, right? So
Okay, true. Yeah.
So just remember that you're not causing anything. They left you a world of hurt here. So if that's the case, here's what I would probably do. If the primary uh, the primary relationship here is between your son and his grandmother, it is of nobody else's business. It's not your brother's business what anybody else gets besides what he got. And if he doesn't like it, then he can work that out in a shrink's couch in relation to his father who has passed on. Right?
Okay.
All right. There's no law that says, well, that's why people have wills. They can choose, as Jesus said one day, when he hired people at different hours and ended up paying them some different things. He said, is it not lawful for me to do what I want to with what is mine? And that's generally the way these things work, that somebody gets to choose who gets what. Your mother chose to give your son this watch. All I'm doing here is trying to, in my view, sort of who this is really about. It's about your mother, and her grandson.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
So here's what I would hope. Here's what I would hope my son would do if I had one. Here's what I hope my daughter would do.
Okay.
I think what I would want him to do is I would want him to call his grandma. Does he have a good relationship with her?
Yeah, he does.
I would want him to call her and say, Grandma, I want to take you to lunch. And then when they sit down, say, Grandma, I really, really, really appreciate that you thought of me and gave me Grandpa's watch. And I'm really grateful for that. But I want us to have a good relationship. So I wanted to be totally honest and tell you about the whole situation so you could decide, because it was your gift to me. So you could decide kind of how you want me to handle this. It didn't come with a lot of, any requirements or stipulations. And I don't know if how much did you think it was worth? I don't know if you did or didn't. But since I really appreciate it, but since I don't wear a watch or use a watch, I decided to take it and find out if I could sell it, because I could use the money to invest and save for my future if it was worth anything. And I didn't know how much. I don't know if it was $10 or $1,000. But I wanted to take the inheritance that you gave me, and I didn't want to spend it. I didn't want to throw it away. I wanted to have it and save it for my future, for when I get out of school or whatever, because I think that would be a way of honoring Grandpa, is to not spend this frivolously. So I went out and found out how much the watch was worth, and it was worth a lot of money. And so I I sold it and I took it and I've saved the money and I've invested it. But I didn't want to do that without you knowing it, because I really love you and I value you. And if you because it was worth a lot of money, I don't know if you knew that or not, and you can tell me what to do here. I'm putting it back in your hands. You can tell me what to do in case you didn't do that intentionally. I don't want you accidentally giving me something that you feel bad about. But that's what I did. So I would love to keep it and invest it for my future. But if you think that's unreasonable, I'll be glad to turn it over to you or whatever, because it's your gift. And I think you should get to decide that. That's what I would do.
Okay. I love it. Thank you so much. Crystal clear.
Now, a lot of people sorry about that. I didn't turn my phone off. A lot of people, obviously, and this is where dysfunctional families go crazy. No, she gave it to him. It's legally his. And they would say, it's not tough, Grandma. Well, to me, the relationships are worth more than the watch. But
yeah,
that's just the way it is. And one of my favorite verses, there's a lot of verses for this one, I think. One time Paul got sent a gift, and it was actually a servant. It was Philemon. And Paul sent him back, said, I didn't want to accept having Philemon, in his service and everything without your having done it under free will. He thought he had to or something like this. The point is the free will of the giver being respected? And that's your husband and yours, or your son and yours concern, is she might not have known what she was actually doing. And so I would want to respect her free will. Doesn't mean that's the right answer.
I appreciate it.
It's the right answer.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it's right. And she kind of did this in a weird way anyway, because she was trying to make up for you getting left out of the will. Why did you get left out of the will?
Exactly.
Why'd you get left out?
Oh, no, that's another call. A call for another time. I don't have a good relationship with my parents.
Okay. Well, I understand. Glad you're coming to the Dysfunctional Family webinar in 2 weeks.
So am I.
A week and a half. What is it? A week and a half, 2 weeks. Anyway, I will see you
Monday.
there.
Thank you, Dr. Cloud.
Okay. Thank you for your call.
I appreciate you.
Likewise.
Okay. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Well, parents, I've said this before. It doesn't matter if you have one lawn chair to your name or you have billions and billions of dollars. In terms of family and passing it on and what you give, that is very important, that you do that ahead of time and intentionally and with a pure heart and a wise heart. And it's not a black and white thing. There's no right or wrong way. It doesn't mean that everybody gets the same. It doesn't mean that everybody gets anything. It doesn't mean that anybody gets anything. You are a steward over what you own. And what I believe about this is, what we own, we don't own. God owns it, and he's made us a steward over it. And part of being a steward over what you own or you're stewarding for God is you have got to choose the next steward. Now, do we want to choose somebody that's an active heroin user to be the steward over God's resources? Probably. I wouldn't. Okay. We want to allow the one who's being responsible and all that to be the steward. Yeah, that's probably who I would want to steward it, or some degree or whatever. That's the way the Bible talks about it. He who's been faithful in little will be given more. Not entitled to anything. Okay. But it's good to put these things intentionally in writing. Okay. Michelle, who's calling us. She watches on YouTube from New York. Michelle, welcome to the Dr. Cloud Show.
Hello.
Hello. Welcome, welcome.
Hello.
Hello, hello, hello.
Thank you. Hello, hello, hello. Thank you very, very much for taking my call today. I actually spoke to you back in July. I have been going through a lot this past year of my life. And in doing that, I came across this guy, Dr. Henry Cloud, who really has a lot of wisdom. And,
what? That guy?
Yeah.
Oh,
I tell everybody about you. They're
I'm
laughing.
so sorry.
You know,
that happened to you.
Yeah, I'm feeling very, very blessed. But I've joined his boundaries.me, and I've been to a few webinars, and I'm looking right now I'm looking at my bookshelf, and I have Boundaries and Necessary Endings and Changes That Heal, and I'm just really diving in here and learning a lot about a lot of things. And in that process, I have discovered that, there was some dysfunction in my life because I'm alive, right?
Oh my gosh, you're one of those things they call humans.
Yes, I am. I am a human. Absolutely, 100%.
I bet you eat food, and I bet you drink water, and you do a bunch of those human things, and one of those is probably have a little dysfunction to go along with it, right?
Yes. Unfortunately, I was not aware of that until recently, and never really.
Oh, wait a minute. Time out. Yes, you were. You just weren't. You just didn't know that's what it was. You had the pain, right?
No. I have uncovered a lot that I did not know was there.
No, I understand that. There's always more, but you knew that life hurts sometimes, and you knew there were hiccups, and you knew there were dysfunctional people in your life, right?
I'm not really positive how to answer that.
Oh.
Clearly, I realized that. That's why I sought help, and how I connected so much with what you say.
That's all I mean.
But I really
we might not know what to call it, but we know, gosh, something's not exactly right around here. So, but tell me, I'm so glad that you've gotten on this path, and I'm glad it's been helpful to you. But tell me how I can help you today.
Okay, so I have looked at my past. Like the first time I went to my first therapist, they're like, "Okay, what's your childhood?" And I'm like, "Oh, believe it to Beaver, June Cleaver. We were all just, happy-go-lucky, and blah blah blah." And I have found that was in fact not exactly true, and that there was a lot of we never talked about anything, ever talked about anything little, big, or anything in between in my life. And I just kind of didn't even think about that. That was my normal. And so when I raised my children, I did as I knew. And now I'm looking at the situation like, oh my gosh, I have taken all of these.
Michelle, hold on. I want you to hold that thought. You just said something I think that could be so helpful to so many people. You said, when I raised my children, I just did as I knew. Okay, I just want a bunch of people out there who have a lot of regrets, and they're feeling bad about themselves and all this kind of stuff. Can we just take a moment, all of you that become aware that when you look back at how you raised your kids, you could have done some things differently, but you did it like you knew to do it. And can you just say, okay, that's what it was? Can you just forgive yourself and accept? And now let's go from there, because you did it the way you knew to do it. I mean, that's how you knew to do it. So anyway, I just want to take your phrase and give people a break and let them go forward from there. Sounds like you're doing. So then what's the thought in your head?
I am trying hard to do that, because I didn't do it consciously. And with this new person that I'm coming in touch with, which is myself, I want to stop a lot of that. And so I want to talk about things. And I'm starting that new relationship with my adult children that, we're going to talk about things. And one of the things I want to talk about is, hey, like, this is something that we did. And that's really my question. How do I bring it up to them without saying, I messed you up. You really need to go to therapy and undo A, B, C, D, because
I always
that's
tell my
not.
kids, I go, look, one day, I'll pay for it. I'm gonna set this account aside. I want you to go to therapy, and I mean, you got to go talk about how I've whacked you out. So
Well, I can't imagine that that's true, but that's just my perspective. So
I won't bring them.
I think my kids are going to need therapy longer than your kids. No, I'm making light of it, but I just see it playing out in their adult lives, and it just absolutely breaks my heart. And I mean, it breaks my heart. And I want to just say, no, don't do that.
Yeah. Okay.
And
So
I don't know how do I bring that up to them, and how do I say, these are I don't know how to approach that.
That's awesome. That's really, really awesome. I would do it. I would just do it in the way
they don't know boundaries. They don't know anything.
No, I get it. But I would just do it in exactly the way that you just did it with me. I'd say, hey guys, I want to tell you guys a story. Okay. And it's my story. And when I tell you this, I want you guys to, I'm telling you this for a reason, because I didn't discover these things until recently. And I went a lot of years without kind of knowing it. And I think it's kind of held me back in some ways. And I'm afraid that maybe some of these things that I didn't know about myself might have affected you too. And so I just want to know if, excuse me, I'm gonna tell you the story, but if any of this has affected you guys, I just want you to know, um, feel free to talk to me about it. And if I can help you, I'll be glad to. But I just want to tell you what's happened to me and see if you can identify in your own life, not just how it affected you, but for yourself. So I grew up, blah, 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 blah. And I didn't ever know this, that, and the other. And recently I've kind of discovered one of the things I discovered is I didn't have very good boundaries. Like I couldn't say no, and I let people control me, or I did things that I resented, or, scattered, however boundaries affect you. Or I didn't know that I was perfectionistic, and sometimes I avoided failure, and I could have done a lot more if I'd stepped out of my comfort zone, or put pressure on myself to look perfect. And sometimes put a lot of pressure on you guys to act like everything's fine.
Yes.
Whatever the issues are, And then you go, and now I've started to really kind of look at these things, and it's opened up this whole new world to me. So here's why I'm telling you this. I don't know if maybe you guys have seen this about me all along, and now you're finally going, Mom, like, duh.
Finally.
Exactly. Or maybe this is news to you, or maybe you're not even ready to dive into stuff like this with me or about yourself. I just want to let you know that I am learning some stuff about me. If you ever want to talk about it, I'm open. That's what I would do.
Well, that's great advice. I'm glad this is on tape. I can go back and I'll write that down and say exactly like that to them.
Hey, better than that. Why don't you invite them over and play it
to watch the family? Guys, yeah.
You're not gonna believe this. Watch this. See what happens. If that happens, you got to call me back. Okay, you got to call me back.
Okay.
Tell me
okay.
All right, Michelle, are you a Boundaries.me member?
I am.
All right, you got all the webinars and all that stuff?
Well, I saw difficult conversations. You actually gave me marriage last time.
All right, I was going to get you all that, but if you already have it, that's great. But here's what I will do. I'm going to give, for all your hard work, I'm going to scholarship someone, give them the Michelle Scholarship, and you find somebody who you would like to grant that to. You contact us, Okay.
Oh my
Make sure
gosh.
Albie's got your contact info so people can't fake in. I don't want people writing in
Yep,
to
yep,
our
yep, yep.
website going, I'm Michelle and give me the freebie. So you give
Right.
him the way that he can do that privately, and you name that
Oh,
person and we will gift them an all
oh,
access license to boundaries.me.
thank you so much. I already know the person. Thank you so much.
Right.
Thank you, Dr.
Okay.
Henry. Please, thank you for doing everything that you do, and
Well,
God
you're,
bless you.
you're very welcome. Thanks for your call. Okay,
Yep.
we are isn't it cool though? I gotta say kudos to Michelle there. I remember one time, and way back when this happened, I was a young psychologist, and I thought, wow, that's really cool because that's really old. And now from where I sit and I look into the future, wait a minute, that's not that old. But I remember I was doing a group one day in the hospital, and this lady stands up and she goes, I get it. I totally get it. I've not have any boundaries. And my mother is totally in control of my life, and I am not going to allow that to happen anymore. And I'm 68 years old. And I remember the whole group just started clapping. Way to go, Mabel. You're 68. Your mother's been controlling your life. You're right. It is time to turn into a teenager and not let that happen anymore. And I thought, wow, that is so cool. Somebody 68 is going to start doing this. And I don't know how Michelle is. She's probably, my guess, she's got adult kids. I don't know. She's 50 maybe ish plus. I don't know, Michelle. I don't know. Maybe you're 40. Maybe you're 55. I don't know how old you are. But the point is this: it is never too late to wake up. God has given you a pulse wherever you are. If you still got a pulse, then you still got problems and issues because you're human. And if he's given us more days, he's given us more days to work it out. And as David said, let's number our days. Maybe Michelle's lived 50 years not looking at issues, and she's going to get another 50 to look at them. I don't know how many any of us have. But I do know this: it is never too late. Even if your kids are already grown and you are an adult, then get into the path of growing and then turn to your kids and say, hey, I just woke up. Maybe it'll help them. All right, just a few minutes here. We're going to take time for one more caller. We're going to YouTube and talking to ZJ. Is that right? Who's calling us from Florida? ZJ, welcome to the Dr. Cloud Show.
Well, hi, Dr. Cloud. Yes,
there.
ZJ is right.
ZJ. Well, that's a fun name. How'd you get ZJ?
Well, it's a funny story. It's a nickname. We liked Zima back in the day. Do you remember Zima back in the day?
Zima back in the, no, I don't. Who's Zima? Sorry.
Okay, Zima was an alcoholic beverage.
Zima? How do you spell it?
Zima.
Albie just told me. He said it's kind of like beer. Was it good? You said back in the day. Do they not make it anymore?
Yeah, it was delish. They don't make it anymore. No.
Oh well, you got it. Well, he said he said it's like beer, but it's lemony. I guess you have to get your own now. Squeeze.
Yes, it was citrus.
Yeah.
It was a citrus one. Yes.
Citrus beer.
Yes.
All right. So tell me how I can help you. What's up?
Well, first, I called just because I wanted to thank you. What Michelle said, I resonated with completely. And I had told Albie, I just want to call and thank Dr. Cloud. You've changed my life. And I know you've heard that many, many times, but you have. It'll be almost 3 years ago that I learned of you in March, April. Anyway, I learned of boundaries.me. My hubby bought me for Christmas last year the lifetime membership, and I love you. You have changed my life. From you, I learned that no is a complete answer. I learned that from you, and I've learned boundaries. I'm 58, and I wished I had known about this many, many years ago, but everything happens for a reason. So I'm grateful for how you've changed my life, Dr. Cloud.
Well,
So I wanted to say all that.
well, thank you. Thank you. I'll say two things. First of all, thank you for your very, very kind words. And we'll say two things about it, though, to expand that. That, and I want everybody to hear this because I don't think enough people know it. That God has designed the universe in certain ways, and he's told us about those ways, about how life works. And way back in Deuteronomy chapter 6, Moses said that. He said, God's given, we were all screwed up. We were slaves in Egypt. He brought us out. He rescued us. And he gave us these ways so that we might walk in them, he said, and then we would always prosper. Doesn't mean you won't have problems, but you'll thrive. Even you'll be able to overcome problems. Just learn God's ways and walk in them, and things will go well. And when I was a slave in Egypt, metaphorically speaking, and I hit the pavement in college, really, really depressed, God brought me out when I reached out to him with a mighty hand, and he gave me these ways, his principles. And so you're thanking me, and I appreciate that. And I take that. I'm really grateful. I'm not shirking the thanks here because I have done a lot of work, right? I had to learn this stuff, but I didn't invent them. What I did was I'm just a messenger. And here's why I say that. ZJ, right? Is that ZJ? Is that how I say it?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Here's why I say that. Because all I did was hit the pavement and get really depressed. And then I reach out to God, and he shows me all this stuff. And all I did was, I'm just telling people what God taught me. And here's what's really cool. As I tell Michelle, the previous caller, as I tell her, and she starts to learn God's ways, and she goes, whoa, this makes a difference. And then she can tell the story and she can pass them on. And as you've done that, you pass it on. All of us are just one little link in the chain where he revealed his ways in the Bible. And what good psychology does is goes and studies those ways and, adds not new ways. I've never seen anything in good psychology that's not already in the Bible. And I would debate anybody on that. Everything that works and is evidence-based and research proven is right there in the scriptures. But we also need that in the same way financial principles are in the scriptures. We need the CPAs to do a deep dive to know how to apply those and all of that. So I'm really for psychologists, but these are God's ways. And so I'm just saying, thank you, but let's always thank him too, because he is the
source. Absolutely.
Yeah. And also the second part of it is that you can be a messenger. That's the cool thing. It's like the 12th step of the 12 steps. Having received this awakening, I go pass it on to others. So anyway, I just want to thank you for doing the hard work because you did it. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Boy, thank you. Is time run out?
Well, we're out of time, but if you got an easy one, I can take a stab at it.
Oh, okay. Well, Albie just said I had to ask a question. So if I don't have to, that's fine. I was just going to ask how to be a helper without enabling.
Oh, that's a great question. How do you think? How would you answer it?
Well, I'm really struggling with that, with the neighbor who deals with substance abuse, and I really feel guilty, and I struggle with helping her, and I don't want to enable her by taking her to places to get her what she needs, and then I feel guilty for not helping her.
Whoa. First of all, I don't know how you feel guilty about her problem. I want to ask about that. But secondly, feel bad about taking somebody to get what they need? Why would you feel bad about meeting a need?
Well, I guess how can I do that? I want to do the right thing and be Christ-like, and I keep her in my prayers. But then she'll call and say, "Hey, I need alcohol, or I need to go to the dispensary," and
that's
and I
different.
just feel
But that's
guilty.
not what she needs. What she needs is an AA meeting.
Yes.
Right.
Or celebrate recovery or something. Yes.
Celebrate recovery. Yeah. Yeah. So is she telling you that she has a problem?
She does. Yes, she has.
Good.
And I'm sorry.
I said, good. That's awesome. So now the door is open. So what I would say is I'd call her at a moment, not when she's calling me to take her to get more booze, right? I would sit down another time and say something like, you know what? You've told me about your struggle with alcohol. And, I've had friends or family members or whatever your experience has been where, I just know that doesn't tend to get better on its own. And it can really have some destructive consequences. And so I've got some family or I've got some friends that have been in this thing called Celebrate Recovery, where they really, really found not only help with that, but also kind of thriving in life. And I'd love to take you to a group. Would you want to go with me?
Wow, that's perfect.
Yeah, because she's already told you.
Thank you.
You're lucky here. And then when you get to talking about this and the other, say, okay, well, and here's the other things. Sometimes you call me and ask me to go get you some booze, and I know you got it. I know this can be a problem for you. So when you call me, I'm not going to take you to get any booze. I'll take you out. We can talk about life. Get some spaghetti and meatballs or something, but not going to take you out to buy any booze, or I can take you to a meeting or something like that. I'll take you a lot of places. I just don't want to contribute to the problem.
Wow, that's perfect. Thank
Right.
you. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Okay. God bless you. Thank you.
CJ, thank you.
And I thank God too. I just didn't say that.
Oh, I knew that. I knew that. I was saying that for me, that,
okay.
that it's just part of something that I want to get out. I want to get out to people in my life. Look, these principles come from somewhere. And one of the things, and a lot of people listen to this program, that some are come from a faith perspective, some don't. And I'm glad everybody that listens. And the people that are not from a faith perspective, I hope that you're able to get something, out of the principles that we talk about. But one of the things I want to always make sure everybody knows, because they may not know this, is wouldn't it be cool to know the person that the principles came from?
Absolutely.
Wouldn't it be cool if, like, you could sit down and meet with and have the person help you that actually wrote the book? Well, God wrote the book on life. And so we can do more than follow his principles. If we know that they came from him, we can actually call him. We can talk to him.
Absolutely.
I got the coolest letter. I won't mention her name. I don't know if she listens to the program or not, but I got the coolest letter through the website this morning about a woman who had said that she was really, really depressed and really, really lost. And then she found boundaries.me and started to watch. And she literally said these words, that it's really, really, kind of like saved everything. And she said, the problem was I was lost between these two worlds. And she said, I went to church, and church would say, well, all that psychology stuff and looking at issues and this and another, all that stuff worldly and bad. And she said, all they did was depress me. And then she said, I went to therapy and reading the therapeutic stuff, and it was all kind of new age and seemed to be anti about her faith. And she said that there was nowhere for me to turn. Over here, I couldn't get help. And over here, I couldn't get God. And she said she found what we talk about on here, and she found that there wasn't a difference, that they were both the same. And that's what I want people to know. I just want people to, when you've heard about Jesus and you thought, that's gross, you're probably hearing it from people that aren't really talking about what he talks about. There's probably the people that he thought was gross too, judgmental narcissists and the power brokering and all that kind of stuff. And then when you talk to other people that were helpful to you, you might have felt like, but I want something more. I want something spiritual as well. And you didn't know that God has all of that. And so that's why I say all that, ZJ. That's just kind of something that personally is very important to me.
Well, I greatly appreciate you. And I greatly appreciate that God led me to you. That's how I feel.
Likewise, that's what he does. Anybody reaches out, he won't put you on hold. It'll feel like it, but he's listening and he will do something. Okay. Thank you for your call, ZJ. Call back anytime. It's been really good to connect with you. Okay. That is about all the time we have today. Except we got time to remind you guys one more. Actually, I'm going to give you two reminders. One of them we talked about today, but the first one is the webinar. Dysfunctional families, family dysfunction, your immediate family, your in-laws, your siblings, your adult siblings, your adult children, all that stuff. We're having a 2-hour webinar, and we're talking about all those problems and all the dynamics, most of the dynamics, the main ones that cause that, and what you can do about it. It's coming up a week from this coming Monday. That is November the 15th. Go to boundaries.me to sign up. November the 15th, be 5 o'clock East Pacific. But if you can't watch it then, you got to sign up for it for that one. Okay. And once you sign up for it, you don't have to be there at 5 o'clock. You can watch it at 8 o'clock. You can watch it the next day. You can watch it a week later or as many times as you want. Because once you register for it, you can stream it many times you want to. Plus, I'll give you a lot of supporting, outline, all that kind of stuff you can go study, and that will be fun. And here's the second thing I want to remind you of. Several people, Dave mentioned boundaries.me. Many people, they get our emails and all that, and they think they get boundaries.me, but they really don't because they don't know what it is. Boundaries.me is a separate platform, and you have to go to the website, go to boundaries.me, and become a subscriber. Once you're a subscriber, you have access to over 90 courses on there. And that's what all that is about. And then while you're there, sign up for the webinar, boundaries.me/family. Register for the webinar. While you're there, remember, join boundaries.me. You get a free 14-day trial. You should peruse the whole site and find out if you like it. It won't cost you anything. Okay, guys. It's good to be with you. And this is Friday, right? I guess I'll see you next week. Have a good